Hello, everybody. Andrea Twarowski here with Dentalelle Tutoring. Sorry for the mess still. We haven't moved yet. We still have another week, so you'll see that for a little bit. But what I would like to go through today is another mock exam package. Exciting because everybody seems to just love them so much that I thought, why not? So let me just share my screen here. We'll be going over a couple different things actually today. So let me just make this bigger. So can everybody see my screen okay? It should say radiography, materials, and anesthetics. So we'll just go through a couple slides because this is actually a session in my Dentalelle student program and also with the Board Exam Prep Academy. So if you would like to learn the rest of the questions or to go through the rest, that is something that you should sign up for because we have mock exam questions all the time and new ones all of the time too that you will not see here. But let's just talk about some, okay? Because everybody loves mock exam questions, and this way you kind of learn a little bit over time how to read them properly for the board exam ultimately, because the board exam is filled with mock exam type questions like these types. So multiple choice. It's not a short answer, it's multiple choice. So let's go through a couple here. So the first question, so what describes the anode? So this is obviously talking about x-rays, talking about radiation, talking about radiography. And the anode and the cathode, which we'll also talk about, is something you need to know as part of that unit. And this is something that you will likely learn right away. So you will learn this quite quickly. So do you guys know the answer? Is it aluminum? Is it the low voltage circuit? Is it the focusing cup? Or is it source of x-rays? And also, if you haven't heard me say this yet, as you're going through a question, go through all of the answers. And if you have no idea, let's say, what a focusing cup is, then that means that you need to go back and study that material again, because this is all stuff that you have to know. And the nice thing inside the courses that I have is I tutor live about 2 Sundays a month, sometimes more, so that if a student has a question, then I am here to answer it for you right away. So you do not have to take that time to look in a textbook, because that's the type of service that I offer. So if you need help, I am obviously more than happy to help you because you have signed up for my course. So something to keep in mind. Okay, so what do you guys think? The answer is D, source of x-rays, and I do explain it a little bit too. So the anode is inside the x-ray tube and made of a copper rod with the tungsten metal target. And I did highlight copper rod because this has been on the exam before. They will ask you what that rod is made of, and you might be saying, I don't know, but that's something that you have to know. So it's made out of copper. So I did leave a few extra notes for you guys. So let's go through another one here. What is the myelobedunum? I'm probably not saying that right. Focusing cup. Is it the anode, the cathode? Is it in the filter or in the collimator? So same thing as before. If you're reading these answers and you're saying to yourself, what the heck is a collimator? You should know this. So you need to go back and study that. But as a student in my course, if you're saying, Andrea, can you first explain what a collimator is? Then I am happy to explain that to you. So you're actually saving yourself some time. So what do you guys think? So does anybody know where the focusing cup is? Because that is something you have to know. It is the cathode. So that's where you find it, in the cathode. Okay, next question. Oh, and I do have a very fun diagram for everybody here. Now, this is actually something that you should print out. And I said page 16, but I'm actually going to take that out because it depends on the textbook you have. This image is perfect. You should print it out and study it, because this image exactly has been on the board exams before for dental hygiene and dental assisting. So this is something that you should know. And as a student, I remembered seeing this, and this just helped me understand it a little bit easier. So this is what's happening inside the x-ray unit. So you have all of this. So, and this is how I explain it for my students too. So when you push the button to take the x-ray, to take the radiograph, things are happening in the middle here, but not as soon as you turn the machine on, I should say. Things are happening in the middle here. But then as soon as you push the button, that's when everything in the middle here of all of those, electrons, things, that's when all of that shoots through the tube head and then takes the radiograph. So it's all happening as soon as you turn it on, but then without actually pushing the button, that's when things become exposed. So I don't want to talk about it too much because I do have some questions coming up that I don't want to give you guys the answer to yet. But make sure you understand the aluminum filter. Make sure you know what that is, and make sure you know what helps to restrict the size of the actual beam. And we will talk about that too. Okay, moving on here, guys. So next question. How do you achieve the anatomic accuracy of an image? So what the image looks like and how you're able to tell what the image is. Is it the focal spot size? Is it object film distance, source object distance, or object film parallelism? And these object film and source object, this stuff you need to make sure to study and know for your exam and likely for your tests in school too, because it's boring and it may seem simple, but they always like to ask these questions. But what do you guys think the answer to this one is? How do you achieve the anatomic accuracy of an image? And I know that I'm moving fast here because I do try to cover a lot of questions. In a session that I do have with my courses, they're typically an hour long, so we take our time. We go slowly. And if there's any questions, you can ask me anytime. If I have to explain things further, I do it then and there. So it's nice. And anything we do not go over, that's okay, because we either save it for next time or I will upload it for you later. So yes, I'm going quickly here now. I apologize, but I do go a lot slower in our courses. Okay, so let's talk about the answer here. So object film parallelism. So let's read the question again. So how do you achieve the anatomic accuracy of an image? That is the object film parallelism. So this is when you use the RIN equipment, and they do say in all of the textbooks, use the RIN equipment to get the best accurate image. You might be thinking, well, I don't like to use the RIN equipment. I prefer to use the bisecting technique. But in some offices, they want you to know and to learn the RIN equipment because they know that that's the most accurate image. So that's important. A lot of students think the answer is the object film distance, and it's not, because there is such a thing as the object film distance, but not the objective. So see how I tricked you guys a little bit there, right? You have to read the answers very, very carefully. Okay, let's go through a couple more. So where would you see the external auditory meatus? And I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm sorry. But where would you see that? So this is typical of what you have to know when you're studying radiography, is you have to know the landmarks. So the bite wings, the PAs, and the pan, those are the main ones. I wouldn't worry too much about on the Ceph machine unless you're in school and that's part of your test. But I find on the exams, they don't typically ask about the landmarks on the Ceph machine. They might ask about it, but they won't ask about the landmarks. So where would you find the external auditory meatus? So you have to know what that is, and then you have to decide, okay, what x-ray would I see that? So let's talk about it. So see the pan. So can everybody see that? So the external, and I did leave an x-ray here for you. So the external auditory meatus, I'm probably saying that wrong, I'm so sorry, but that is B. So that's all the way up here. So think, so that's like, yeah, like that's around your ear. So if you took a PA, you would not be able to see that. Even if you took a PA of the wisdom teeth, well, if it's near your ear, you know, like if you take a PA here, how would you be able to see that, right? If you take a bite wing, that's over here. So how would you be able to see that all the way back here? So it has to be a pan. So this is where, for pretty much a lot of the questions, you have to know a little bit about everything. Like even if you knew where that was, you have to think, what x-rays would show that area? And that's where it gets tricky as a student, because you have so many things to think about, but it all comes into play soon enough, I promise. Let's do one more, everybody. So where does the central ray need to be? So this mock exam package is basically for radiography. I'll do another video talking about materials and anesthetic too. So we will do that afterwards. But where does the central ray need to be? This is a very common question that you have to know. So is it parallel to the teeth in the film? Is it perpendicular to the teeth in the film? Is it client specific, or is it behind the mandibular tori if they have tori? So you have to know these things, especially parallel and perpendicular. I cannot tell you how many students I talk to that don't know the difference between the two. So that's typically one of the first things that I teach. You may be a student thinking that's really easy, but some students don't find that easy, right? So I make sure to teach you guys the basics first. So again, if you're reading this question and you're thinking, I don't even know what parallel and perpendicular is, then go back in your notes and learn that first, because then how were you supposed to answer the questions, right? Don't simply take a guess. Try to take the best educated guess possible. If you have no clue, then that just means that you have to go back to study the unit a little bit more. Trust me, you will thank me later, because every little thing that you go back to study, you learn something new, right? So what do you guys think this one is? Perpendicular to the teeth and the film. This is where the central ray needs to be for the bisecting technique. They don't typically talk about the central ray for the RIN equipment, for the paralleling technique, because the RIN equipment sort of shows you where the central ray needs to be because you line it up. But for the bisecting technique, you need to look at your tube head where the central ray is so you know how to line it up. And I personally don't like the bisecting technique because I need to be able to see it properly. I was always so bad with the bisecting technique. In school, I learned it, but then as soon as I got out into the real world, I did the paralleling all the way. So remember, the central ray, perpendicular to the teeth and the film. So yeah, you guys, I hope that helped. I'll go through some of the other ones in the next videos, but if you guys have questions, let me know. Mock exams are always exciting, and I find them very, very helpful. So I'll see you guys in the next video.